It's episode 8 of the Golden Blue Breakdown Show, and we are previewing a very, very critical matchup for the West Virginia Mountaineers as they prepare for the Kansas Jayhawks to come into Morgantown in week 4 of the 2024 college football season. And I'm here with my friend, my co-host, Jonathan Martin, and we're going to break it down and we're going to preview it. Jonathan, how you doing?
I'm good, Coos. We're still here.
That's right, man. We are here. We haven't ran away, even though we kind of wanted to at times.
Yep. Yeah. Still here.
Yeah. And I guess we'll be here for the duration.
That's right.
As long as you guys continue to listen. Before we jump into it, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our channel sponsor. Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. What is up out there, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into this edition of the Golden Blue Breakdown. This is going to be a very intriguing episode. Jonathan and I have both been digging into some stats and some numbers, and I think we've got a very, very good show for you lined up. For those of you who've watched, you know how we do it. We always kind of take a peek back at the previous week's game. I'm not even sure we do that this week, Jonathan. maybe we don't. Maybe we do. I don't know. Anyway, then we do 3 keys for West Virginia each. We do 2 key matchups, 1 key player to watch, and then we give our score prediction at the end. So without further ado, Jonathan, I guess we better do a quick recap of the Pitt game.
Yeah. I think this is kind of one we dreaded. We have to talk about it. It's still several days later, almost a week later. It's the elephant in the room, right? It's what everybody's talking about. You know, we kind of did a live show after the game, and I think frustrating and upset and disappointed and shocked. All those words we used then, I think we're kind of still using today. It's almost kind of hard to wrap your head around. But having said that, you have to move on, right? And as frustrating as it can be, and it is, and it was, West Virginia starts Big 12 play this week. And I'm not stating I guess I'm stating the obvious here, but we would have loved to have won last weekend. We would have loved to beat Penn State. We'd like to be 3-0, but we're not. And we've got to get right for a big game at home and start Big 12 play out on the right foot. So,
yeah,
we're still here, still going, and tough loss, but I guess we just lick our wounds and move on.
Agreed. Yeah, it's you know, I guess it is what it is. I don't really know how else to put it. Like you said, the disappointment and everything is still there. Less emotion behind it, but definitely still disappointment. Expectations have definitely been lowered. I actually, talked about in a show that I've changed my record prediction to 5-7. I mean, I'm just 8-4 to 5-7. I mean, that's a 3-game difference. Because when I look at this schedule, I go, man, I just don't. The way this team's playing, I don't see that many wins on the schedule. But that being said, there's always a chance that they prove me wrong. There's always a chance that this week becomes a, for lack of a better term, they have a come to Jesus moment, and they realize, hey, man, we gotta get it together. Maybe they make some tweaks, especially to the defense, and maybe they come out and look like a different football team. I don't know. And maybe Pitt's a good team. I don't know. I don't think they are, but maybe they are. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I think, and you and I had kind of talked off air a little bit. When you look at some of the numbers with West Virginia, it may not seem like it. It may not appear that way. but there are some bright spots there. There are some things you can maybe going into this weekend and Big 12 play you can hang your hat on. There's a couple things, especially offensively, even defensively. I know that may not be met with a lot of positivity right now, but there are some things you can hang your hat on and you can feel encouraged about. But I feel like it's kind of a theme that I've said over and over, and maybe if it's ever been as true, it's now, is that the time is now. Kansas comes in. We'll talk about that. They are, if anybody's reeling, about the same as West Virginia, it's Kansas.
Absolutely.
And so somebody's going to come out of this game Saturday feeling better about themselves, and hopefully it's West Virginia.
Let's hope so. You got two teams backed into a corner. Both of them are going to both of them are going to try to fight their way out, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Jonathan, let's go to our first category here, and that's the keys to the game. We're going to give 3 each. What is your first key to this game for the Mountaineers to win?
Yeah, Coos, I wanted to be different, I promise. I didn't want to state the obvious, but I'm going to state the obvious. Defensively, you got to stop somebody. I mean, you have to stop somebody, especially in that defensive secondary. No secret. We all know it. Everybody knows it. The West Virginia secondary has, through 3 games this year, they just simply put, they haven't shown the ability to make the stop. They've been undisciplined. They've been out of position. You name it, they've just about done it. And I hate to be blunt about it, but they've done it outside of stopping anybody. Week 1, Penn State, Aller could have thrown for as many yards as he wanted to. He had 200 at halftime. He stopped. Albany, 300 yards. Last week, Holstein with Pitt, 300 yards. You're facing a quarterback this week against Jalon Daniels, who has struggled. He's played well against West Virginia in the past, but he struggled this year coming back from injury. You got to stop somebody, Coos. West Virginia's given up over 800 passing yards this year, 7 touchdowns and no interceptions. It's not getting it done. You know it. I know it. Players know it. Coaches know it. So at risk of stating the obvious, my number 1 key is you have to stop somebody. You got to make a play. And going up against a quarterback who has been reeling this year, coming off that injury, and he struggled. I'll talk about that a little bit here in a second. I think the West Virginia secondary, you got to get right.
Agreed. Totally agree with that. And I'll probably talk a little bit about that later, the pass defense later in one of my keys or one of my matchups. I don't want to give it away yet, but my first key is something. When I look at this game, I was kind of digging into a few, what I'll call advanced stats, trying to wrap my head around them, thanks to friends over at Cover 2 Data. But one of the things I was looking at is scoring opportunities. Anytime you get the ball inside your opponent's 40-yard line, right?
Yep.
So each of these teams are averaging 5.3 points per opportunity, which is good. Well, actually, West Virginia's 5.3, Kansas is 5.5. Both of those are good numbers. So they do typically score when they get inside their opponent's 40. So when you take that into consideration, I think field position in this game is going to be critical. Getting 3 and outs is going to be critical, which, we haven't – West Virginia's not been able to do that very much.
Yep.
Because, at least when they're passing the ball, the opponent's passing the ball. So if they can win the field position battle, pin Kansas deep a lot, which is where Michael Hayes and his kickoffs may come into play.
Yeah.
If they can keep them backed up inside their own territory, I think that's a huge key for West Virginia, because if they get inside the 40, more than likely they're going to score. That's just point blank.
Yeah.
And same for West Virginia. West Virginia needs to move the football and get the ball inside their Kansas's 40 so they can score. So they have a good chance to score as well. So the field position battle is going to be critical in this game, in my opinion. So that's my key number 1.
Yeah. Yeah, West Virginia's done a pretty good job scoring inside the red zone. I think 37th nationally. So, yeah, very good point. It's going to come down between that area. And you made a good point about kickoffs. Michael Hayes can't kick the ball out of bounds again. Yeah, it's little things.
Yeah,
it's little things. And in a game where you do have two teams, as you noted, backs against the wall, it could be those little things that determine who feels better about themselves after Saturday.
Yeah. And, you know, talking about the kick, I hate to spend so much time talking about the kicking game, but it's important.
I love special teams, Coos.
I know you do. We need to get us a shirt that says special teams matter.
I don't have that listed tonight. Spoiler alert, I don't have it listed tonight. So don't apologize. I love special teams.
I don't have it listed, but it's kind of part of this. I mean, it kind of is, I guess. But and I hate to kick somebody while they're down, I guess, so to speak, and keep harping on the coaching. But Neal Brown talks about how he wants to try to pin people with his kicks into the corner and all that. Man, just kick the friggin' ball.
Yeah.
Just kick it. Kick the football into the end zone and quit trying to be cute. I feel like he overthinks things so much. I think that's one of his problems, honestly, sometimes. Just quit overthinking it and kick the ball. I mean, Michael Hayes has got the leg to do it.
He has the leg, and I'm not going to sit here, even though I love special teams, and act like I know all this data and analytics and angles and all that. But just from my perspective, it would just seem that you've got all this space. Why are we trying to just put it in a window in the corner? You know, it just doesn't make sense to me. And when something becomes an issue or something is an issue more than once, it becomes a problem.
Yep.
And it's not the first time we've seen it. So we probably need to cut that out.
Yeah, I agree. All right. What's your second key to the game?
Yeah, so second key for me is actually containing Jalon Daniels. I mentioned that he has in the past, he's performed well against West Virginia back in 22. He's struggling. He's struggling, Coos. 54, 55% passing on the year. His numbers haven't been great. 3 touchdowns on the year, 6 interceptions. Even against Lindenwood in the first game, again, his first game back wasn't pretty. Now he's been a little bit of effective in the run game, and that's something West Virginia will have to keep an eye on. But you know, we kind of talked off air that this might be a game where West Virginia and even Neal Brown talked about it Monday. Schematically, they might change a few things up. Might be some different guys in that secondary. If there ever was a weekend where it looked like you could get right, that you could make the right changes, you could maybe switch that scheme up or go against a quarterback who I don't even know if he's 100%. He almost kind of looks a little bit different back there. You can't allow Jalon Daniels to have a get well game.
Correct.
And so if you're going to fix your problems, it would need to be this week against him, because if Jalon Daniels goes 9 of 15 against Lindenwood and he goes 18 for 32 with 3 interceptions against Illinois, and it's against UNLV's 12 of 24 with 2 interceptions, he's thrown for 150 yards a game. If he comes out and throws for 300 yards against West Virginia this Saturday, we've got next level problems. And so to prevent that, I think this is a good opportunity for the secondary internally to get better.
Agreed. My second key, this is where I'm going to talk about the pass defense, is West Virginia's pass defense and pass coverage, okay? And when I was digging into these numbers, one thing I noticed, first of all, Jalon Daniels, even though he's struggling, he's turning the ball over a lot, and he's not been super accurate. He has been somewhat successful throwing the ball downfield. He's averaging 11.3 yards per completion. And when you look at the explosive play rate of Kansas, they're actually better on the passing side than they are the running side as far as their explosiveness. They're averaging 1.48 predicted points added on their explosive plays, whereas West Virginia's defense, on the other hand, is giving up 2.18 predicted points added on explosive plays. So in the pass game, that is specifically. And those two things are not a good matchup for us, for West Virginia.
No.
So that worries me a little bit. So can you limit Jalon Daniels' explosive plays down the field? The ways you do that, obviously, good coverage, and can you get to him with the defensive front, the front seven? If they can cause havoc, which they've done a good job of so far.
Yep.
I don't have the number in front of me, but the West Virginia's havoc rate has been really good on defense, especially the front seven. If they can cause havoc on Daniels, maybe force him into one of those turnovers.
Yep.
That'll be huge.
Yep.
So and that'll help out the pass coverage.
Yeah. Yeah.
They won't have to cover as long,
Going to have to get active, and I don't want to give away my number 3 here, but you're going to have to be active. TJ Jackson, I thought this was a pretty interesting stat. TJ Jackson is tied for number 1 nationally in tackles for loss.
Yep.
7.
I saw that.
And so I felt like even last week, especially early, there was some good penetration there. They were a little bit more active. And so you're right. It all kind of goes hand in hand. And so I think for West Virginia, this is a good opportunity for them to cover and to get a little bit active and have those front guys help the back end guys a little bit this week.
Yep. All right. I agree with that. So go ahead and tell us what your third key is. Yeah,
playing off that, you got to create some turnovers. We haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And like you said, because I hate to just keep kicking somebody when they're down or a unit when they're down, but we've got to see some turnovers. You got to take some chances. You got to get active. Throw caution to the wind. Maybe get more in just man coverage. Bring him an extra, a guy from the outside. Blitz a little bit different. Something's got to change. And we're this far into the season, and it's still early. When I say this far, obviously, I want to be clear on that, but you got to get some turnovers. And I think this is a good opportunity for West Virginia to be active, as we just talked about. And Jalon Daniels has proven 3 interceptions against Illinois, 2 interceptions against UNLV, threw 1 early against Lindenwood. So 6 interceptions already on a young season. And so he has proven to – maybe he's taking chances or maybe just throwing bad balls. I'm not sure. But this is an opportunity for West Virginia to flip that script and to get some turnovers. And they need to do it. I think it'll go a long way towards the confidence as well.
Absolutely.
That's all they need.
They do need some confidence. And if they could get a pick 6 or even a pick to boost that confidence, get them fired up, get momentum and going in their direction, man, that could be huge for the psyche. Absolutely.
Be huge. And
I love it.
Not that we can ask a team with none to pick the timing, but if you could just set that tone even early in the game versus if Kansas just comes right back down and just kind of picks you apart and it's here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
That mindset versus if you could create that turnover, get that pick early in the game against somebody that is susceptible to throwing interceptions, I think it'd go a long way to set the tone for the game. I really do. And confidence is contagious.
And if you can get the crowd into it.
Absolutely.
Being a home game.
And they need to get that off their back.
Mm-hmm.
And this week, I feel like so far, Jalon Daniels has proven that he's going to give you those opportunities. You just have to take them.
Correct. All right. My third key. I don't feel good at all about West Virginia's wide receivers against Kansas's defensive backs in this game.
Yep.
West Virginia is going to have to run the football even when Kansas knows that it's coming. And I think that's key in this game.
Yeah.
West Virginia is going to have to run it when Kansas knows that they have to run it. Does that make sense? They got to be successful at running it.
Sure.
Even if the box is stacked. Because I'm not confident, and here's why. One of Kansas' strengths is their secondary. They have Kobe Bryant back there, one of the best corners maybe in all the country.
Yep.
Their other corner, whose name has escaped me, also very good. So, and our receivers, let's be honest and blunt here, they have not proven they can get open consistently.
Yeah.
And I just and again on these advanced stats, I don't want to get too far into the weeds here, but the havoc rate of Kansas' secondary, 7.2%. That means they're intercepting balls, knocking balls down, pass deflections, whatever. West Virginia's offensive havoc rate on the wide receivers, 7.7, which means they're getting balls knocked down and getting balls intercepted. So it's flipped. That doesn't make me feel very good.
No.
That Kansas secondary, 12 passes defended so far and 1 interception in 3 games, which is pretty good. So I'm a little bit worried about that, and I think because of that, West Virginia is going to be forced to run the football with a loaded Kansas box.
Yeah. And let's just not going back to the Pitt game, but let's just not see C.J. Donaldson run the same play over and over.
The tackle box 3 times. Yeah.
Mercy. Yeah. And I'd like to see Garrett get outside and run a little bit more too. Seemed to be a little hesitant last week for whatever the reason. But yeah, you're right. Kobe Bryant, by the way, was the one with the pick 6 back in 22, I believe.
He was.
That sealed the game for Kansas. So
he absolutely was.
Really good. He is really good. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yep. All right, let's shift gears. And let's go to the position battles, Jonathan. What's your first position battle that we need to be on the lookout for in this game?
Yeah, so this one is a little bit different. I switched it up just a hair here. I went I don't know if it's allowed, but I went Garrett Green versus Jalon Daniels. Because you've got 2 semi-struggling quarterbacks going against each other who are easily the leaders of their football team. And we talked about Jalon Daniels and containing him. He's not been – I don't know if he's 100% healthy, but he's not been right this year. And Garrett, though at times has looked really well, at the other times he's just looked off. A couple interceptions late last week, and I know that was a tough task asking him to drive that ball down the field, but those throws they were rough. He's not wanted to run the ball when I felt like he had the opportunity to run the ball. I don't know if he's just trying to stay in the pocket a little bit more. But I think both Daniels and Green are running about 55%, 55% completion.
Mm-hmm.
Both went into this season talking about how they've worked really hard to increase that number. So which one of these guys can have the better performance between the two, whether it's Garrett Green that rises up and maybe runs the ball a little bit more like he did against Albany, or Daniels who can eliminate his mistakes. Whichever one of these 2 guys has the better overall Saturday, I think that team is the one that wins.
Agreed. All right, my first one is, and it kind of plays into my last key, run the ball when you know you have to when the defense knows you're running it. Kind of ties into that, and that is the matchup between West Virginia's wide receivers and Kansas's DBs. Can West Virginia's receivers get some separation on those guys?
Yeah.
Can you get open? And when you do get open, can you make a play? We saw, and I think we may see more of Jaden Bray and Justin Robinson this week after the plays they made last week.
Yeah, they looked really good.
They did. Probably arguably the 2. Now, Hudson Clement also had the big play that unfortunately got called back because of a bogus holding call. But outside the Hudson play, it was those 2 guys who made big plays in the past game, and along with Cole Taylor too.
Yeah,
don't want to leave him out. But can West Virginia's receivers get open enough to help West Virginia stay somewhat balanced in this game? Because you can't run the ball 100% of the time. They have to be able to throw the ball a little bit. Would love to see them get some explosive plays downfield in this game against those really talented Kansas DBs. It's going to be tough. So I'd like to see the wide receivers for West Virginia step up and get open and make some plays in the passing game.
Yeah. I think Kansas is really good in that secondary. If anything, though, it's maybe a little top heavy, and I feel like West Virginia's got multiple options.
Mm-hmm.
Great call on Jaden Bray and Justin Robinson. Those 2 guys are worthy of some more receptions, more looks. That Robinson catch last week was, and that's NFL level. That was really good.
Absolutely, it was awesome.
Wouldn't even mind to see Rodney Gallagher get a little bit more touches this week too. if for nothing else, to loosen that secondary a little bit. Maybe that's on a reverse. Maybe that's out in a flat. He's a playmaker. Get him involved. The good news there, I think, is West Virginia really has some weapons. And overall, they played pretty well last week. So it'll be interesting to see that matchup. Good call on that one.
Yep. All right. What's your second one?
Yeah. So for me, I think it's the West Virginia defensive line, linebackers versus Devin Neal, running back for Kansas. I went into the year saying I thought Devin Neal was probably top 2, 3 running back in the conference. He's been good, 100 yards rushing every single game. I think he's averaging 7.5 yards per rush. He's got the long rush of 50-some yards. He's talented. And honestly, Coos, he's taken a lot of the workload off of Daniels with the way he struggled a little bit. Week 1, West Virginia kind of gave up some rushing yards. They were a little vulnerable there. And so if you want to put the pressure on Jalon Daniels this week, you're going to have to hone in on Devin Neal because they're going to feed him the ball 30, 45 carries already. And so they're going to run the football. So it's a tale of two evils, right? I mean, if you hone on him, you're going to force Daniels to pass, and we know that concern there. But I think it's going to be critically important to stop Devin Neal on this weekend.
Yeah, and that's, I loved how you said linebackers versus him because I'm kind of going the same route, except I said West Virginia's D-line versus Kansas's O-line.
Yeah.
We talked about the pass rush portion of that already, so that's kind of a given. You need to get as much pressure as you can on Jalon Daniels, right? And if you can do it with rushing only 4 guys, it's even better. Because maybe you can have because I'd like to see him put a spy on Jalon Daniels, which they didn't do last week and probably should have on Eli Holstein. But when you look at Devin Neal, you mentioned Devin Neal, the young man, he does not get stopped behind the line of scrimmage. And a lot of that has to go to Kansas's O-line.
Yep.
There's a stat called stuff rate, and that is the percentage of the times you get stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. Kansas is only getting stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage 7% of their rushing plays.
Wow.
West Virginia's even though West Virginia's running game is pretty good, their number's like 18. So it's higher than that. And 18 is not a terrible number.
No.
It's about average. 7 is what Kansas is at right now. So it's very rare for those guys to get stopped behind the line of scrimmage. But on the flip side, West Virginia has done a great job stopping running backs behind the line of scrimmage at a 25% clip. So who gives?
Yeah.
Who gives in that battle? Is it West Virginia or is it Kansas? And I think that matchup right there, who wins that battle in the trenches? And of course, like you said, you've got to add the linebackers in there too. But who wins that battle? And that's going to be key.
Yeah. Well, I think we both agree we love what we saw out of TJ Jackson. We love what we see out of Josiah Trotter, very active. And so I think those 2 guys, along with a couple others, you're going to have to, in a situation where he's tough to stop at point of contact, they're going to have their work cut out for him. Devin Neal is really good, really talented. Like I said, on the season, 7.5 yards a rush. So it's going to be really critical to limit him over 100 yards each game this season. So be curious if West Virginia can get that number down to 75 to 80. And you'd have to think if you can get him underneath 100 with where he's been running the ball, with the way Jalon Daniels has struggled this year. If Jalon Daniels continues down that path this week and you can limit Devin Neal to that 75 to 80 yards, I think you got to feel pretty good about your chances.
Agreed. I like it. All right. Let's get into the next metric or the next category. The one player for the West Virginia that you think is going to make a difference this week.
Yeah, Coos, don't get mad at me. I had to name a player. I went Jordan Leslie.
You know what?
A curveball. Shouldn't have done it.
There's no rules. There are no. Hey, I'm a Maverick, man. I don't follow rules anyway.
I'll tell you why I went here. Let me explain why I went there. And I know it's player to watch.
That's okay.
And I knew what I was getting myself into, but I'll tell you why I did this. I feel like West Virginia. Okay. We noted that there's been struggles. We know that. Don't have to talk about it. We know it. Neal Brown has spoke now 2 weeks in a row about changes. Even named some guys that he wanted to get in the game this week, was hoping to. Talked about TJ Crandall from Colorado State. Jacoby Spells, hoping that he's healthy. Even named Keon Washington, freshman. He's been sick. Hated to burn a red shirt. We'd have to play a certain amount of games, but they like what they see there. Neal Brown talked about changing some scheme up, personnel, how they go zone versus going man. I think they know their back's against the wall this week, and I didn't name a player because I think you're going to see so many moving parts this week that it would be tough for me to just say one corner, right, or one safety. So for me, the one to watch is Jordan Leslie because we know the struggles. We know that they talked about they have to bring change. They also know there's a lot of people with eyeballs on them.
Yep.
And so I want to watch Jordan Leslie this week, and I want to see what changes occur. We were told they were coming for 2 weeks in a row. We told there were going to be some changes. I want to see them. And you can't sit in a press conference a couple of weeks back and say that changes are simple, they're easy, and then you can't promise change. You can't promise competition. You can't promise more reps. You can't promise we got guys in here for this when we need to run that. And almost borderline act like you've got it figured out, but then let's not see it. And so I'm really curious to see. I know it's not a player, but I'm curious to see how Jordan Leslie and this defensive staff adjusts, changes this week. And I want to see who's in the game and what's different. What's different? Show me what's different.
I like that approach. I'm mine's a little different too. It's not a coach. It actually is a player, but I couldn't really pick out just one player for some of the same reasons you just mentioned. There's going to be so many moving pieces. It was hard to pick out one player. Before I give mine, by the way, can I brag on myself a little bit?
Absolutely. It's your show, Coos.
I think somebody, one of the two of us, said TJ Jackson would be the player to watch in the game against Pitt.
Do you have one of those little things you can drop down over your head? That
no, but I can do the Blake Shelton finger point.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just happened to think about that when I brought this up. I'm thinking, wait a minute, I picked TJ Jackson for this last week, and he ended up getting the Big 12 Newcomer of the Week award. But anyway,
he needs to send you a Christmas card.
He did his job, nonetheless. And obviously, it would be easy to pick the quarterback because you could pick the quarterback every week, right?
Right.
But looking at the defensive struggles that West Virginia's had, and seeing as they said, or Neal said they were going to try 2 new corners, I picked one of those 2 corners. Now, he may not even play, but he should play, hopefully. And I picked Jacoby Spells. Now, the 2 that he mentioned were Jacoby Spells and TJ Crandall, right? The transfer from Colorado State. The reason I picked Spells is because he's in year 3 in the program. He was a 4-star recruit, one of the most he may be, if not the highest rated DB they've ever recruited, he's up there.
Yeah.
It's time to put up or shut up, right?
Yep.
Jacoby Spells, he's made some big plays at times, but he's also, been in positions to make plays and not made them as well throughout his career. That's why he hasn't been on the field consistently.
Had a pick 6 at Virginia Tech.
Correct. So it's time for this could be Jacoby Spells' moment right here.
Yeah.
Will he take advantage of it? I would love to see him succeed. The young man could have transferred out, and he didn't.
Yeah.
Him being a 4-star recruit, he probably could have transferred somewhere.
Yeah.
And been unhappy about playing time, but he chose to stay. And I'd love to see him get rewarded for that. I'd love to see him go out there on Saturday and ball out, get him a pick, get himself a couple pass breakups. And be a difference in that game, because I think whether it be him, like I said, I could have picked TJ Crandall just as well, but I picked Jacoby because I think it's his time to shine.
Yeah, and a lot of people believe that he's not fully healthy. I believe he played a couple snaps against Albany.
He did,
yeah. But I don't believe he played last week. It was a little curious to me. Maybe just wasn't all the way back. But you're right. He's capable of making big plays. They like Crandall. I think he's athletic, fast. But yeah, it's time. I'll tell you this, Coos. If TJ Crandall or Jacoby Spells ignites this defensive secondary, they'll be elected governor of the state of West Virginia.
Yeah, you got that right.
They're looking for something.
It won't be you don't think Jordan Leslie will get voted
governor? I don't think so. I don't think so. He is my one to watch. But seriously, their NIL will jump through the roof because you'll have the whole state of West Virginia sending. I mean, this is where we're at. We're looking for something, and I almost went that route, but then I just went to Leslie because I didn't quite know who was getting in. So it's good to know that you and I are kind of thinking the same thing. But you're 100% right in. Spells has shown that he's got that playmaking ability.
Yep.
And I think they're looking for a combination of that opportunity. So what a great stage for them Saturday to bring some welcome change.
Agreed. All right. Now let's go to score prediction. This is the fun part.
Oh, yeah.
I'm struggling with this one, by the way.
Yeah. Me too.
I'll let you go first.
So West Virginia 6-1 against Kansas in Morgantown.
Mm-hmm.
They've outscored them 279 to 139. I wrote that down. That's an average of about 40 to 20. Doubled them up.
Yeah.
You'd like to think this is a week where West Virginia's offense 2 weeks in a row has played pretty well. We feel like we might see some change. I don't think so. It is one of those I've got to see it to believe it. As bad as it pains me to do it, look, we could sit here and just say West Virginia every game, right? I mean, if we're in week 9 and we've won 3 games, we could just keep picking West Virginia. But at some point, I just got to be honest about how I feel about the game. I'm going Kansas 34, West Virginia 28. I have Kansas coming into Morgantown and beating West Virginia 34 to 28. Because I'm just not sold on where this team is mentally, emotionally. Fair. I know you always get it, but we saw players retweeting stuff last week after that game. We saw parents tweeting, retweeting, family members. We saw what you and I believed, Neal Brown throwing some players under the bus. And then he backs up a couple of days later and says he's got guys. It just seems so all over the place.
Yep.
And I can say with honesty, I hope I'm wrong. But at some point, you have to look at a team and say, what have you done to prove that I think you can win this week? And I just don't see it. So as much as it pains me, Kansas 34, West Virginia 28.
That's fair. Similar thought process for me, man. I'm at a point now where I just have almost no faith in them winning close games. They're not good enough to blow teams out, I don't think.
No.
I don't think they're built to blow teams out, just to be quite honest with you. And Neal Brown has even kind of admitted that in the past. He's like, we're a team that has to win in the margins. What's that telling you? We're not going to blow people out.
Yep.
Well, you know what they haven't been able to do consistently is win in the margins.
Yeah.
They continuously have penalties at the wrong time. They, drop interceptions 1 or 2 every game. They don't cover people. the defensive line will play balls out, lights out until the last 2 minutes, and then they miss a key tackle in the backfield. I mean,
yeah,
it's like Garrett will make some good throws, and then he'll sail one over a guy's head that's wide open. I mean, they just, and I'm trying to lay blame on across the board here, not just on one position, one player. They just continue to fall short week in, week out in close games against good competition.
Yeah.
And until they prove to me that they can stop doing that, I just don't have confidence. And I don't like this matchup. I know Kansas is struggling right now, but when you look at what their strengths are, it's the things West Virginia struggles against: throwing the ball deep and a quarterback who can scramble.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that are breaking West Virginia's back every week, and that's what Kansas is good at. Other than Devin Neal running the football. They're good at that too, but you see my point, man. I just
100%.
I don't love the matchup. And I also like Kansas. Kansas's defense is pretty good. It's their offense that's been troublesome for them. So, West Virginia's offense, they've not been great. They've been okay. I don't know, man. So I'm picking. I know I'm rambling, but because I'm kind of venting a little bit. But it's 27-24 Kansas.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, we could sit back and just pick West Virginia every week. But at some point, it just have to see it to believe it. And Coos, I spent 40 minutes telling you, I said Jalon Daniels. I don't know what the over-under is on the time I said Jalon Daniels' name, but it's a lot because he's so key to Kansas.
Yeah.
And he struggled. And if there ever was a week you could get it done, it was this week. But what have we seen that makes us believe? And again, I hope we can sit back Sunday and me and you can watch this and everybody else can watch it and say, man, those guys are idiots. I hope.
Yeah, me too.
But what have we seen this year that can say we feel good about going into this game? And I think last week was just another example of every which way you could find to lose a football game. Up 10, inside 5 minutes. You were really good in the middle of that game defensively until you weren't. Penalties got you. The play calling got you.
It's always something.
It's always something. And as I always laugh, because I'm always seeing it tweeted at me, it's the most West Virginia thing ever. And it's always finding a way. And, when I see an Albany quarterback, Miles Burkett, come in after throwing for 140 yards to Long Island, and he comes into Morgantown on a Saturday night, throw for over 300. Why should I trust that Jalon Daniels doesn't get well this week? You know what I mean? And I hate it that that's where we're at. But it's just how I feel. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that some of the changes, because, and I said at the very beginning, there are some things out there to be excited about, even defensively. But the bad's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if some of those changes are corrected and we see some results, maybe we'll look different here in a couple weeks. But for now, I just don't see, even at home, I don't see West Virginia getting it done. I hate to say it.
Yeah. I think the air, the life, whatever you want to call it, has been sucked out of the program. I just do. There's so much negativity. It's had to have seeped into the building. At least in some of the guys.
Yeah.
They're on social media. They see it. Some of them may be watching this show. And we hate to be negative, but we have to be honest. We have to be real.
Yeah.
and they're adults. They should be able to handle it. Like Coach Brown said in his presser, it comes with the territory when you got a fan base where it matters.
Yeah.
You've got to take the negative with the positive, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're in a time right now, but I'm gonna end this with a positive here, Jonathan. This team has an awesome opportunity right now, man, to do something nobody thinks they can do. They can take all this negativity, do like they did last year. Say, guys, even our own fans are turning on us. Let's come together as a family. Let's rally around each other, and let's go out here and let's prove everybody wrong, and let's win. Let's go compete in the Big 12 and win some games, right? Let's see if they can do that again this year. Can they play again and succeed with their backs against the wall like they did a year ago?
Yep.
That's what I'd like to see.
And it's possible. It's possible. For as down as we may be, and as the predictions are what they are, it's possible. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but Oklahoma State on the road, tough environment. But I think if you look at even that Arkansas game they played earlier this year, it's an opportunity.
Correct.
Then you come back to Morgantown, Iowa State, Kansas State, both at home. So it feels a little weird to say that we're concerned and then start talking about it's possible, but it is possible.
Yep.
And again, to end it on a positive note here, what as frustrated as we are, fans are, the team, coaches, it starts Saturday. What happened the first 3 games, in one point, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant because it starts Saturday, Big 12, and you have an opportunity, like you said, to prove a lot of people wrong and say, hey, guys, it's us. And one thing I was thinking about today, and I'll say too, that I think the first half of this game is extremely important because what happens, as we alluded to earlier, if you can come out, you can get a couple stops, get that turnover, get an interception, get a couple good offensive drives, and you feel pretty good, crowd's excited. But what happens if you come out and Jalon Daniels is thrown for $170 at first half and 2 touchdowns, and it's a here we go again mentality, right? So I didn't list it in a key to the game, but I thought about it, is the first half of this football game, because I'm curious to see where this game goes after the first half, because it could tell us a lot. It could tell us a lot.
Great point. Great point. They need to start fast.
Yeah.
And please stop. Hey, West Virginia, if you win a toss, stop taking the ball. Defer.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say it.
Please defer.
I've screamed it.
Makes no sense.
I don't understand it. I don't understand.
Is that another sign they don't have faith in their defense, Jonathan?
Yeah. Great point. Great point.
And I hate to keep talking about it. Let's look at all the red flags that we probably chose to ignore as fans. One, you have a wide receiver moving to play corner who's never played the position.
That's alarming.
And they said he's our best cover guy. That's
alarming.
Okay. Yep. After only a few practices, they said that in man coverage. Everybody, and rightfully so, everybody was bragging on Rodney, talking about how great of an athlete, and that's deserved. Yeah. He is.
He is.
But we can't expect him to come in. It's not fair to expect him to come in and be this lockdown corner in 3 games of his life when he's not played the position. Against Penn State and Pitt. Yeah. Right? That was a red flag. It should have been anyway, right?
Yep.
I go back to 22 and how much Jordan Leslie bragged about the secondary, the guys that transferred in that year. He bragged about them the entire offseason.
Yeah.
He did that again this year. So
yeah,
there's just, it seems like there were a lot of red flags and we probably chose to ignore them.
Yeah.
And them not deferring to the second half when they win tosses.
Haven't understood that one. It's almost like they are saying, get us that lead early, buy some time, and let's see where it goes. But it's not working. It's not working. So
right.
it just is. It's a pivotal week on a lot of fronts, and I've got several things I'm keeping my eyes on, and I keep going back to I have to see it to believe it, and so far I just don't.
And I know everybody's talking about this kind of, so I don't. But I got to ask you one more: is this a must-win game? In your opinion?
Yep. Yeah. I feel like must-win gets thrown out a lot. But I have to be honest with you, Coos. If there's ever been a must-win, it's Saturday, and I'll tell you why I feel that way. There's so many implications on this. You have a team that had a lot of expectations after winning 9 games this year. You had a lot of talent coming back. By all means, they did really well in the portal. Neil Brown and his staff did a good job of selling this team. You had Penn State at home. You had the backyard brawl. And all of a sudden you look up and here we are. It's been ugly. So what happens? Right? So you lose. Now it's carrying over to the Big 12. Then you go to a bye week. Then I said you don't want to get ahead of yourself, but if you lose this and you're reeling, and then you go to Oklahoma State, do you feel confident there after you just lost to Kansas at home? After the backyard brawl, that collapse in the last 5 minutes, under 5 minutes. Then you got Iowa State. Then you got Kansas State. Then what happens when you go to Arizona? I think this is a tone setter. It's a must-win for me because there's so many implications and dominoes that could potentially fall if it gets out of hand.
And that's not, and that I don't even know if you brought up the rumblings that, maybe do we see a coaching change? And I'm not talking about head coaching change, but do we see a staff change somewhere during the bye week that could impact the team as well?
Yeah. So, and when a team's struggling and there's questions and concerns and a fan base that's upset, I don't know that the bye week is the most comfortable week to be sitting around in offices.
It's not. Now, it is good. It might be good for them to regroup and get their heads together. But
yeah,
if there's a situation where there are major changes taking place, then I totally agree. It's definitely it will definitely create an uncomfortable environment for everybody.
So while I'm not a huge fan of must win, just because I feel like that gets thrown around a lot, if this is a must win, there's too much riding on it. Whether that's fan support for the rest of the year, revenue generated there, coaching changes, kids hitting the portal, everything you thought was going to happen is just gone. Just way too much riding on it, and then just the schedule going forward is not easy. So
brutal.
We're sitting here wondering today how they're going to overcome the first 3 games. Well, what are we going to be doing in week 8 or 9 when the waves just keep coming?
Something I just thought about when you mentioned transfer portal, and I've heard other people mention it, but it never really sunk in. There's that 4-game rule, right? You can play 4 games.
Yeah.
And redshirt.
Yeah. Yep.
And their bye week just happens to be falling after their 4th game.
Yep.
So guys could choose not to play the rest of the season.
Yep.
Hit the portal after the season, and then be done. Basically,
a lot of implications this week. A lot. And by the same token, that if you feel like you can correct some mistakes, offense has another solid performance. Now all of a sudden you go into a bye week saying, "Hey, told you we got this. We figured it out." And then you almost kind of go into Oklahoma State with nothing to lose at that point, right? I mean, Cowboys are going to be predicted to win that game, and so it kind of you're playing with house money. That makes sense at that point.
Yeah.
So,
best case scenario, we win. Oklahoma State beats Utah. Then they win the following week. I don't know who they play. They play.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Kansas State.
Wow. Yeah, Utah at home, and then on the road at Kansas State. So Oklahoma State's 14th right now. You beat Utah at number 12, Kansas State 13 as of now.
You're a top 10 team.
Looking at the top 10 easy. Yeah. And depending on what happens, you could be going Stillwater against maybe a top 5, top 7 team. And if you can get something this weekend, could you imagine?
Yeah. People will be trusting the climb again, baby. No, I don't want to go that far.
Yeah.
It's going to take, I think it's going to take beating that. That's what it's going to take is a win like that.
Yeah.
Is what he needs to get everybody, maybe even a couple of those, to make everybody feel better.
Yeah. And that's what I say. If you could get a win this week and feel a little bit better about yourself, and you could go on the road, looks like that time is to be determined. Maybe you get a night game, maybe it's just what the doctor ordered, a game where you're not predicted to do much at all. Maybe you go in that game 21-point underdog, and what do you got to lose?
Exactly.
We'll see.
Exactly. Well, everybody, we forgot to do this again. Go check out our X account at @GBBreakdown_. Please follow us over there. We try to tweet out some things occasionally over there. Follow us on our personal accounts at Jonathan K. Martin, at JONATHAN K. Martin, and me at Couz206, COUZ206, for those who are listening and not watching. If you're watching, it's obviously on the screen for you. So come check us out there. And Jonathan, you also have a podcast, right? The Jonathan K. Martin podcast.
I do. Just some things that I just kind of come up with on my mind that we can't fit into this show. And so, yeah, appreciate everybody tuning in.
So go check that out. And obviously, you're on Couz's Corner, so come check out the rest of my work here. Got to give another shout out to Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner, your personal injury and medical malpractice attorneys in West Virginia and Virginia. If you need their services, give them a call at 304-999-HURT, or check them out at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. Thank them for helping us keep the lights on. We thank you for tuning into this episode. Have a top shelf day, and cue Country Roads.